Hi everyone, I am here with a true story. This one has a quote before it that's from the Unity Prayer for Protection by James Dillett Freeman. The light of God surrounds me. The love of God enfolds me. The power of God protects me. The presence of God watches over me. And wherever I am, God is. Janet's Vision. Marilyn Weber, author of A Rustle of Angels, hated to visit the doctor and had not had a checkup for far too long. One night, 4 angels came to her in a dream. They were not the glorious shining beings that you had always imagined angels to be, Marilyn relates. These were dressed in black and appeared to be mourning, summoning her courage. Marilyn asked them why they were so sad. Because, said one, if something is not done soon, you will die. Suddenly, Marilyn was wide awake, trembling at the vividness of the dream. It had been so real, like no other she had ever had. Was it true? Was she ill? The next day, Marilyn visited her physician. Tests showed that she had uterine cancer, usually a silent killer. If you had not come in for a checkup when you did, he told Marilyn, after her successful surgery, I don't think we could have saved you. The precognitive dream, showing an event before it occurs, is probably the most difficult type to understand. In some cases, like Marilyn's, the forewarned dreamer can take action or protect herself with prayer power. At other times, it appears that nothing can be done to change the outcome. At this point, perhaps, the dream or vision is God's way of preparing us so that we know that He is near and will help us to get through whatever lies ahead. Janet J. Carraro agrees. She was busy packing for a family vacation to Pennsylvania in August 1992 when she had an odd experience. I heard a voice, not actually an audible voice, but somewhere in my mind, Janet says. The voice asked me what I would do if our car were to catch on fire. A ridiculous question, Janet thought, but before she knew it, she had answered, I'd jump out, of course. The voice persisted, what about your children in the back seat? Why, I'd go back and get them, Janet stopped. Could she? Could she actually run through flames to rescue her little ones? Few people are called to risk their lives in such a way. What about her? As she pondered the idea, she suddenly saw a scene so vivid that it seemed a movie screen had rolled down in front of her. She and her husband Joe were sitting in the front seat of their car, and their 3 children were in the back. Joe was shouting at her, get out, the car is on fire. Now he was leaping out from behind the wheel, wrenching open the car's back door and dragging their 11-year-old daughter Leanna from her seat. Janet saw herself act on the mental screen too. I nodded to him, picked up something on the seat, turned around and unlocked the doors, mine first, then the back, got out, opened the back door, unbuckled my first grade daughter, Tony's seatbelt, then unhitched the 3-year-old Joey from the car seat. He was asleep. Carrying him, I grabbed Tony and ran with her to the front of the car where there were some safety barrels, the kind they used on road construction with fluorescent rings around them. We huddled behind the barrels as the car exploded and burned. Then the scene faded. Janet was aghast. What a terrible thing to contemplate, and why? Gradually, her pounding heart quieted and then resumed her packing chores. She wouldn't think of the strange occurrence again. The rest of the day passed normally. As Janet prepared dinner, however, the vision returned, and she saw the entire sequence again. "Oh God, please take it away," she heard herself praying. This was the last thing she needed at the start of a vacation. That night, Janet dreamed again and again of the event in a bizarre series of instant replays. "The next day, I told Joe about it," she recalls. "Bless his heart. He said very little, just told me to try and relax and not let my imagination get the best of me." But Janet was becoming edgy. Through that day, as she put together the final touches on their departure, the dream vision came several times, now in a speeded up version. Joe shouting, leaping out to grab Liana. Janet nodding, picking up something on the seat, unlocking the doors, unbuckling Tony, lifting Joey, running, hiding behind the barrels. Faster, faster. I couldn't stop seeing it no matter how hard I tried, she says. I thought I must be losing my mind. On Sunday morning, it started out raining weather, but before long, the sky cleared and the Pennsylvania mountains loomed majestic and beautiful. They arrived in Hershey safe and sound and reached Lancaster the following Monday evening. Janet hadn't had the dream for 2 days. She was relieved. Hopefully, the whole bizarre ordeal was over, but at 4 o'clock in the morning, I sat bolt upright in the motel bed, shaking like a leaf, Janet says. I had had the dream again. The television was right across the room, and I seemed to be seeing that scene on the screen. Nod, grab something on the seat, unlock doors, unhitch Tony, pick up Joey, run to the barrels, run, Joe, awakened, and tried to comfort her. I know it was getting to him, but all I could think of was, Lord, we are so far from home. What if something does happen? Please send your angels to take care of us. The following day, they visited Strasburg, an Amish community, and while in a store, Janet saw a blue and white striped conductor's hat. She felt a strange urge. We have to get that for Joey, she said. Her daughters looked at her in surprise. Mom was always telling them not to ask for souvenirs, and here she was buying a silly hat for their little brother. But as soon as she bought it, I felt very peaceful, Janet says, as if it were meant to be. The dream didn't come that night. Had it mercifully ended? Janet didn't dare to hope, but on their last morning, she turned toward their New Jersey home with a lighter heart. Rather than take the turnpike back, Joe opted for a more scenic route. Through side roads and minor highways, instead it turned out to be a maze of stores and traffic lights and malls, which slowed their pace and confused them. Eventually they realized they were lost. Joe was very agitated, and an ominous feeling seemed to have settled over everyone. Janet began to pray almost urgently. Something was happening, but she felt helpless to stop whatever was going on. Suddenly, Joe broke the silence. Look out the back window, Janet. Do you see smoke? Janet turned. It looked like a heavy exhaust. Maybe we got some bad gas, she suggested. Abruptly, Joe swerved over to the shoulder. Get out, he shouted at her as he leaped out of his side and wrenched open the back door to grab Liana. The car is on fire. On fire! Janet saw blue flames whooshing past her, and suddenly she knew just what to do. Calmly, she picked up Joey's new hat from the front seat, turned and unlocked both doors, got out, and opened the back door. She undid Tony's belt, unhitched her sleeping son from his car seat while repeating the same quiet phrase. "The car is on fire, but it's all right. It's all right." Grabbing the two small children, Janet hurried toward the front of the car, Liana running beside her. Was she dreaming now? No. There were the two safety barrels just ahead on the shoulder, with wide fluorescent bands on them, and she and the children ducked behind them. Now she could see flames dripping into a puddle under the engine. That has to be gas. Now she could see flames dripping into a puddle under the engine. It's going to blow up, she thought. Where was Joe? Joe had run toward a truck that had pulled up behind the burning car. A moment later, he and the driver began throwing roadside dirt onto the flames. Soon the fire went out, and a moment later Janet heard the sound of sirens approaching. The truck driver, an off-duty Allendale, New Jersey police officer, had called for an aide on his car phone, but he still couldn't believe everyone was safe. "I saw your car from a half-mile back, flames and smoke covering it," he told Janet, as she and the children emerged shakily from behind the barrels. "I thought you were all goners." The emergency medical techs checked everyone over for carbon monoxide poisoning. They too were amazed, Janet says. We'd had the air conditioning on, and the fumes from the smoke had filled the car. The children should have certainly been sick, if not worse, but we were all fine. It wasn't until the car had been towed and the family brought in a hotel lobby to phone relatives that Janet had a moment to relax. And as she did, she heard a by now familiar voice in her mind. "See how much he loves you?" the voice asked. God. The dream. She hadn't thought about it until now. Yet with the exception of the explosion, everything had happened in exactly the way it had been shown. The hat on the front seat, I hadn't bought it when I'd first had the dream, so of course I couldn't identify it. Joe's warning, unlocking the doors, picking up the children, flames all around us, and me so calm. Far from a misfortune, the dream had been a mysterious and unexplained dress rehearsal, right down to the little unimportant detail of the hat, a specific preparation so she would act decisively and remain calm. The car was checked over several times by mechanics, but no problem was ever found, and Joe drove it safely for another year. The children experienced no fears after the episode and were not at all reluctant to travel in cars. Janet never had the dream again, or any other premonitions, and she doesn't know why this particular warning came in a dream. But I do believe, she says, that if there is something you must know, the Lord will find a way to get you the message clear and concise, with no doubt about where it came from. He loves us, she says, that much. That's right, he does. And he will get us the message if it is meant to be. Good night, guys. God bless.